Hello and welcome to a special discussion on the crisis in Karnataka as it snowballs into what many now think of as a farce. We're going to concentrate tonight on the role of the governor, which has attracted enormous controversy right through the day today. My guests are Congress spokesperson and MP Manish Tiwari, BJP spokesperson Nirmala Sitharaman, the former Solicitor General of India Mr. Andhya Rujina, and the editor-in-chief of The Hindu, N. Ram. Manish Tiwari, Arun Jaitley said today that this is neither a political crisis nor a constitutional crisis. It's a crisis created entirely by the governor. Now, he was your law minister. You appointed him governor of Karnataka. How do you defend him tonight?
Well, what has played out in Karnataka over the last couple of days is a result of the internal contradictions within the BJP. It is the past struggle among the so-called second-generation leaders of the BJP, Arun Jaitley, Sushma Swaraj, Venkaiah Naidu and Anant Kumar, playing itself out in Karnataka. If today democracy has been shamed, if today we've seen this unseemly spectacle of the speaker colluding to convert a minority government into a majority government, there is only one party and one party squarely to blame for that, and that is the Bharatiya Janata Party.
Nirmala Sitharaman, Congress says that in fact you are simply shafting the governor by trying to pin the blame on him. The fault in fact lies in your own internal divisions. Now, you began criticizing the governor when Sushma Swaraj demanded his resignation because of the letter he sent the speaker. But Article 175 entitles him to do so. So what has he done that was so wrong that demanded you should start criticizing him?
Karan Thapar, I would like to tell you that the spokesperson of Congress has completely misled the country. To blame people who have nothing to do with it, being the senior leaders of my party, I object to the kind of remarks he's come without any note of caution. Having sent a law minister, former law minister, who is known only for his misdeeds, as the governor to Karnataka, and since the time he's taken over, the governor is known only for his misdeeds. The Congress party has been continuously using him as a tool. Even in the earlier debate, the Congress spokesman...
Nirmala Sitharaman, concentrate if you can on the question I asked you. I asked you about the letter that the governor wrote. Why is it objectionable when he's entitled under Article 175 to write and give advice to the House?
No, Mr. Thapar, you should please allow us to correct when falsehood is being spread. The speaker there did give an opportunity for the dissident MLAs to present their case before the suspension was passed. They had their own representative come and stand before the speaker and give their version of things. So it is incorrect to say that the speaker did not give a chance for those people before their suspension.
Mr. Andhya Rujina, you're a former Solicitor General. We now have established that the governor has a right under Article 175 to send advice or to write to the speaker. The question is the content. Now, Arun Jaitley says that in the letter to the speaker, the governor asked him not to exercise his authority under the anti-defection law, and secondly went on to say that if that authority was exercised and the verdict of the assembly affected, the governor wouldn't accept the verdict. If Arun Jaitley is correct that that was part of the content, did the governor overstep his limits?
I beg to differ with my friend Arun Jaitley. I think there are constitutional duties of the governor, and I think the governor, at least on this particular point, was within his rights to tell the speaker not to queer the pitch by exercising his rights of disqualification and create a majority which was not there. I do not find that anything objectionable. The rest of what the governor has done is not my business. But as I can see, the governor was perfectly within his rights.
Now, N. Ram, a second aspect of the governor's behavior that has been criticized is the fact that he seems to have, within 24 hours, done a U-turn and changed his position. Yesterday, it's believed that he wrote to the government in Delhi demanding that the BJP government in Karnataka be dismissed. Today, he seems to have changed his mind, offered them a second chance to prove their majority, what he calls an act of charity. Has he contradicted himself and in the process undermined himself?
Yes, absolutely. But this is, he's trying to save face, because I think it's clear that he recommended President's rule because nobody has contradicted it. The entire news media in this country have reported it, and the governor seems to have confirmed it at the press conference when he was asked the very question why he had changed his mind. So I don't take seriously the challenge to the to this reported fact. or purported fact. But certainly he has contradicted himself. He has undermined the image of the governor, the governor's the requirement that the governor be independent and not a partisan. The way he's talked alone, that has disqualified him from holding such a high office in such a sensitive situation. He should be persuaded to resign.
He should be persuaded to resign. Did you hear that, Manish Tiwari? The editor of The Hindu says the governor should be persuaded to resign. Let me add to that this. He's also created a piquant situation for your government in Delhi. Yesterday, it's believed he was recommending dismissal. Today, he's offering the same government a lifeline and calling it an act of charity. He's actually landed Dr. Manmohan Singh and the cabinet in the middle of a quandary.
Well, I do not understand as to from where these facts have come. Can somebody confirm to me authentically as to what the contents of the governor's report to the central government are? Can somebody confirm the veracity of the fact that the governor did indeed recommend President's rule or merely made a report of the unsavory happenings within the assembly yesterday? So therefore, I don't think that there is a need to jump the gun. And number two, both the Bommai judgment and the Bihar judgment, and the Honorable Solicitor General, the former Solicitor General of India will bear me out on that, underscore the fact that the strength of an assembly has to be tested on the floor of the House. And when that strength is tested, it needs to be done by following the due process procedure and rules and regulations of the House.
Okay.
So if the governor has advised the Chief Minister that the first vote of confidence was a complete farce and please go and seek the confidence of the House again, how can you fault the governor for that?
Nirmala Sitharaman, let me put it like this. Ordinary Indians, many of them voters of the BJP, feel that the manner in which a test of confidence in the House was handled by a voice vote is morally wrong. Now, you're a party that prides itself on being a party with a difference. That's a moral claim to superiority. Don't you think that is one part of the governor's advice you should accept? Go back, have a proper division. If you win it, so be it. If you lose, so be it. But at least you'll emerge clean. At the moment, it looks as if you've done a cover-up because you aren't confident of your support. The governor's got a good point there, hasn't he?
Had it come at the right time, if the governor's advice comes at the right time, after the process have shown that as he wishes it was a fair farce, then it would be an advice to be taken up seriously. He has unfortunately come in at a time which betrayed his sense of wanting to interfere rather than to be a good governor.
Okay.
So the timing of his advice has revealed his intentions much more than what he should have really done.
That's a very interesting comment. Good advice perhaps, but at the wrong time, which makes it inconvenient to accept. I wonder what that really says about the BJP. Ms. Andirujina, let's come to the third aspect of which criticism has come to the governor. His long rambling press conference today, he seemed to behave like a opposition leader rather than the head of state. He accused the BJP of corruption. He said he was fed up with their corruption, and he specifically talked about mining and land grabbing. Do you think that was befitting of a governor of a state?
No, I don't think that is befitting of the governor of the state. I think he shouldn't have descended into the arena of conflict in that way. A governor's actions can only be upheld if he acts constitutionally. He doesn't have to go into the arena of politics. Therefore, I can't defend the governor there.
So, in fact, today he's been his own worst enemy. Is that what you're also adding?
Well, I'm not a politician, but I think I only look at it from the point of view of law, and I think the governor should maintain a degree of detachment and only step in when is constitutionally it was required. And I think on the first occasion when he told the speaker not to queer the pitch by issuing notices and disqualifying, he was on firm ground. Thereafterwards, what he did is something which I cannot comment on.
And Ram, you said a moment ago that the governor should be asked to resign. If he refuses to resign and go voluntarily, should he be dismissed by the government in Delhi?
I hope that it will not come to that. But after the press conference, I think it has compounded the mistakes he has made in the situation where the perception is also that he's highly partisan, not just on the part of the BJP. So if he stays on, it's going to divert attention from the huge crisis the mess the BJP has got into in Karnataka, and you'll lose the focus on that.
All right.
Apart from that, has constitutional overreach and also a lowering of dignity of the office of governor, head of the state.
A lowering of dignity of the office of governor and head of state. That's the comment of, in fact, the editor of The Hindu. My thanks to all four of you for joining me, for shedding light on the controversy surrounding the governor tonight.